This is Spo-Ad Cast. Spo-Ad Cast is the official podcast of the St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program.
We are your inside look into the sports industry.
Want to get a job in sports?
Yeah.
Listen to Spo-Ad Cast.
Welcome back to the Spo-Ad Cast, the official podcast of St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program. I'm your host, Trevor Graham, alongside Jason Fowler. Jason, how are we doing today?
Good. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm good. Summer semester just finished for me on Wednesday, so yesterday was my first day off, and who knows how long. I know you can't
Good for you.
say the same, but
good for you.
Well, yeah, life is good.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time at the beach yesterday and watched about 8 episodes of Suits.
That's really nice for you. I'm happy that you get to sleep. I haven't slept in about 3 days. I'm taking 5 classes this summer, so
I know
it hasn't really stopped.
A couple weeks and you'll be there.
Yeah.
And then you get to move.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that'll be fun.
It's just over and over. It never stops. So we always keep busy here at St. Thomas.
Yes, we do. We got a lot to talk about today, a lot of very interesting topics. First, we were just discussing, which ties in with the local South Florida market down here and the ongoing dilemma revolving around the Dolphins and the Marlins. Most recently, Stephen Ross has decided to align himself with the political party. Interesting.
Take a guess which one it is.
Yeah.
Take a guess.
I don't think I need to. Tell me, though, what are your thoughts about this?
I don't understand it at all. Stephen Ross owns a professional football team in the NFL. When you own a team, you want to you want to play to every market possible. You want to bring in as many people as possible, people from different backgrounds, people with different political viewpoints, different racial backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, that's why we have different levels in the stadium. Now, it seems weird to me.
Does that make a difference to you? I mean, you're a diehard NFL guy. As a fan of the game, does it really make a difference to you on whether or not the team that you choose for aligns themselves with a political party, a certain political party, or neither?
I mean, I think it can make a difference. I mean, I just think politics are just like one of those don't talk about issues. People are always like, don't talk about politics and don't talk about religion. And that's normally like the do not go there sections, Right. It just, from a business standpoint, it's the equivalent of what Chick-fil-A had recently with their, somewhat of a smear against gay people, And that was a huge problem for their business. They had a lot of people that said, I refuse to go there. And then you had people on the opposite political viewpoint that said, well, I will go there because I support them making their decision.
Sure.
or for believing in something that I also share. So, what it does is it divides people. And you never really want to divide people in business. You really want to try to find ways to incorporate people of different viewpoints and bring them in the door, because ultimately that's going to make you more money. And that's, from a business standpoint, for me, that's really where it's coming from. Not the politics, but from a business standpoint, I would not agree with it. I think it's kind of crazy.
And it's almost like as if they essentially eliminated half of their target market, or not eliminated, but, picked a side.
Well, let's just give them a little bit of background. We said it's obvious what party they're supporting. The super PAC that Stephen Ross has actually created is for the re-election campaign for Governor Rick Scott, who is a Republican candidate. So, you have diehard Democrats in Florida, and the last 2 elections, presidentially at least, have gone to the Democrats. So, in terms of the area, it's kind of a delicate topic. I mean, you're kind of separating yourself from people who may want to go into the door but won't because of their political alignment. And there are people like that. Not every Democrat's going to do that, because there's still diehard Dolphin fans who are Democrats, but you never want to isolate people on the basis of political viewpoint. I just think it's kind of crazy.
Well, in the last few months, obviously, you and I have been, immersed with the talks of the Dolphins and the Super Bowls and the stadium renovations and how that ties in with the Marlins and everything that happened with them. Do you think this is potentially a smart move with him to get government backing, government funding? I mean, obviously we know that the funding fell through with the proposal this year for Dolphin Stadium.
Right.
Do you think this is a tactic for, the future?
I hope not. I hope not. I hope we don't use politics, supporting politics as a way to get the legislation that we want done. Obviously, the legislature in Tallahassee has knocked down in the past certain bills and certain policies that would have been pro-business for the Marlins, for the Dolphins, for local teams here in South Florida. So there is definitely politics within business, and those are things that they do need to play to, but it almost never serves well to support one or the other. You know what I mean? You should be supporting politics, but in an even-handed way. When a guy like Stephen Ross says, okay, I'm going to support the governor for re-election only, and not maybe the opposing party either, it could breed animosity between people with strong political views.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because as I just told you this morning, and we discovered it last week, but the administration is making, Obama administration, I should be specific, sought out the help of the NFL in supporting Obamacare.
Yep.
So this is like a global scale of, the business aligning with themselves with politics.
Well, the interesting thing about that is, we had, it wasn't necessarily President Obama himself, but we had Congress people that were coming out of the woodwork and asking the NFL, hey, we would really appreciate maybe a partnership, looking at the Affordable Health Care Act and saying, okay, are we actually going to have people, promote this from a business perspective? And the NFL said, we don't want any part of it. We don't want to support one or the other. Me personally, I think that's the best way to handle these types of things, is to be apolitical, to say we don't want to get involved in politics, even though most of the owners have their own political viewpoints and things like that. But from a business perspective, it doesn't really help them to say, okay, yeah, we're going to support, pro-democratic policies or pro-Republican policies, because that's going to divide their fan base.
And the NFL has come out and made a statement saying that we currently have no plans to engage in this area and have had no substantive contact with the administration. Then a little note later on says that the MLB and the NHL both had meetings set up with the administration to discuss presumably this matter, and then later canceled those meetings. So it seems to be that, all the major sports are kind of, one, being targeted, which I think is important to recognize, but also they're declining to align themselves, which
is smart. I mean, I think the interesting thing for them is that they have been approached, they have had meetings, but when it comes down to it, the NFL is, the big kid on the block, and when the NFL says, no, we don't want to get involved, others will follow, and they're doing the right thing. I think this makes sense for business. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what plays out with Ross and his campaign here. Transitioning topics a little bit, but staying in South Florida, the beloved DWade has gotten himself involved in another lawsuit with his crazy ex-wife, Sia Vaughn, again.
So what's going on with this lawsuit, Trevor?
Well, when they agreed to separate, they mutually agreed, and a preliminary injunction was put in place that the funds that Wade received from his endorsements, sponsors, everything like this, would be placed into a mutual account.
Okay. So it was a settlement agreement.
Right.
Okay.
That they would share while, it's pretty much putting everything on hold while they could iron out, what was going to happen with them. Okay. Now, what DWade did is went to his sponsors behind Sia Vaughn's back and behind the agreement that he made. He contacted T-Mobile, Staples, and Gatorade and told them pretty much, hey, we have this mutual account this money's supposed to go in, but I want you to put it into my personal account.
Sounds kind of sketchy.
Well, it is.
It sounds bad. He
is being accused of breach of contract and civil conspiracy. Sia Vaughn is seeking $1 million in damages.
In damages?
Yes.
On top of the money that's supposed to be put in, or this is just to the lawsuit itself?
Yeah, to the lawsuit itself.
So she wants the money that's supposed to go there plus an extra $1 million for the damages for breach of contract.
Correct.
That's a lot of money.
She claims that she hasn't been able to pay her mortgage.
In South Florida is pretty likely.
With other things.
we have a high default rate down here, so I wouldn't be surprised.
The most interesting thing about this, and for those I know down here, this is Wade County.
Miami Wade. It was actually named that for a day, you know. That was a real thing. For all of our listeners outside of the South Florida area. They actually named Miami-Dade County Miami Wade County after the 2006 championship. So that was a real thing.
The man can really do no wrong down here in the eyes of many.
The demigod.
But he's had so many legal battles going on with this ex-wife of his.
She's just kind of nuts. Like, I don't know much about her. What's her story?
I mean, I don't know much about her either, but from everything I've read, as much as I've followed DWade, I started following him when he was at Marquette. So it's been quite a few years. He just, he needs to get away from her once and for all. But financially speaking, not only the fact that he's in a lawsuit, does that hurt, but coming off his third championship, there's a potential for a lot of new endorsement deals, new sponsorships. But these endorsements and these companies, they're not going to come after Wade out of fear that they're going to get involved in this suit.
That kind of makes sense. I mean, nobody likes to support a guy that's running out on child support or running out on taking care of the ex-wife. You know,
that's the real issue that I have.
Normally look good,
because if this account was set up for money, so that they could take care of the kids, they could pay for the kids' college, alimony. If that's what it was for, then I have a serious problem that DWade is withholding money from that. However, I also know that DWade he fathers his kids. His kids
true.
Down here live with him.
He has custody.
He has custody of them. He just wrote a book last year on, being a dad, being a father.
And he's a good dad. I mean, he is a good dad from that respect. He's a very good father.
So I can't see why he would intentionally take money away from them, which leads me to believe that this joint account was
specifically for her.
But very interesting. Definitely not something that DWade wants to be involved in right after.
Not a good move on his part. I mean, it's rough to pay that money, but now he may be looking at penalties on top of money, so it's better to just do the right thing and just pay the woman and let it go, and then he has his kids and he can take care of them and be the good dad that he's been. So
definitely. And another related lawsuit involving a superstar in the NBA. I was telling you a little bit about this morning. DRose has found himself in the middle of a lawsuit between Adidas and a local church in Chicago.
Has he missed Sunday services, or what's been going on with him?
It's sad. It really is. DRose, as you know, he's a hometown guy.
Yeah, he loves Chicago. Loves the city.
And that city loves him.
Yeah, he's a poster child.
Now, what has happened is that there is a church in Zion, Illinois, which is about halfway between Chicago and Milwaukee, that has targeted Rose as a potential witness in a trademark lawsuit with Adidas. So, here's the story. This church started this campaign called Add a Zero.
Okay.
And this was to encourage members of the church to increase their donations.
Now, what are the donations going to?
A local food pantry.
So it's not like this is going in the pocket of the church and they're building a bigger facility. This is for poor people, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
But the whole campaign, the Add a Zero slogan, was for the members of the church to encourage them to increase their donations.
It's a good program.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And I admire that. 3 years later, Adidas came out with their Adi Zero. Their brand, their line of shoes.
It's almost pronounced the exact same way, too. I mean, I've heard Adi Zero and then I've heard Add a Zero, so it sounds exactly the same.
So what this church has done is filed a lawsuit against Adidas claiming trademark violations.
Interesting.
Even though it's Add a Zero, Adi Zero.
Right.
I mean,
it's a slight.
It's close.
It's a move off of it.
Right. And the Lanham Act has sets forth requirements
for the trademark itself.
Exactly.
Right.
I suppose it's probably beneficial to go over
some of the legal issues.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably going to be looking at a case. I mean, obviously the Lanham Act is going to be involved because that's the act that handles trademark and the protection of the trademark. It's basically the legal doctrine that allows a person to say, I own this and nobody else can make money off of it, basically. On the flip side of that, there is also a doctrine called the fair use doctrine, and these two acts kind of conflict with one another. So you have the Lanham Act, which is the trademark protection on one side, and then on the opposing side, you have the fair use doctrine. Given what we've talked about here, and given what we've talked about outside of this segment, it seems to me, if I were to make a legal prediction, and obviously this is not on the
Your
record,
opinion.
nor legal advice for anyone in the suit, is that they're likely to use Adidas is likely to use the fair use doctrine to their success. That doctrine basically looks at a few factors. There's about 8 factors that they look at, and the court weighs all of these factors individually. So there's not like one factor that's more important than the other, or if there's one factor that is extremely, has a lot of evidence where the others do not, they'll just use the one factor. So it's not, you don't need all these elements, but they're just, things that the court looks into. In the legal world, we say factors versus elements. Elements are requirements, where factors are just, good to have, right? So these factors go in this way. They look at the strength of the trademarks themselves. They look at the similarity between the two parties. They look at the proximity of the products. So what are the comparable products? Then we look at the likelihood that the plaintiff will bridge the gap between the two markets. So the likelihood that Adidas would corner both markets by using this trademark. Then they have the evidence of actual confusion. So they also look to what the consumer could believe based on these based on the two different products. Then they look at the presence of good faith on the part of the defendant. So they look at, okay, well, did Adidas exercise any good faith in this respect, or did they understand what they were doing when they had those issues, and were they done in good faith? Then the 7th element is the quality of the defendant's service itself. And then finally, they look at the sophistication of the purchaser. So then we go back to the purchaser. What is the purchaser going to think in this circumstance? So based on all those different things, we have 2 drastically different trademarks. So we have the Add a Zero church campaign for
a food pantry.
We're donating money so we can help our local poor and make sure that the local poor have dignity and have meals to eat.
Right.
That's one program. On the flip side, we have Add a Zero shoe campaign. I personally own Add a Zero golf shoes that I wear. They're incredible, by the way, if you want to get a pair.
I have a pair, thanks.
Great shoes.
They're
are great shoes.
No, they are.
Great golf shoes. A lot of pros wear them on the tour, and they have basketball shoes. I mean, it's the full line of sports. I mean, they have everything.
I mean, last year, Adidas rolled out $1 billion in revenue.
I mean, they're making money.
I mean,
they're doing well.
Versus a church
pantry.
A pantry who's, I mean, they're...
And that's what the court will look at here. They're going to say, okay, how similar are these parties? We have $1 billion in revenue for shoes, for, all different sports.
In a global brand.
And then on the flip side, we have a local church in between Milwaukee and Chicago, and more or less a nowhere town.
Right.
That's
doing great things.
Doing good
to
things.
Their credit.
Yeah, to their credit, doing very good things. But at the same token, how similar are these businesses? Not very similar at all. So likely to lose on that element as well. I also don't see I don't see the bridge being gapped between these two markets. I don't see the food pantry business somehow entering the shoe business at any point, or the vice versa. I don't, had we had Adidas start an Add a Zero campaign where they were doing charitable work and they were doing soup kitchens and things like that, they'd have a case. I just don't understand the person who's bringing the case. I understand them being upset about they have similar names, but it kind of seems like an attempt to get some money out of the situation, or to maybe get a settlement to help their cause, which is very wrong in my opinion.
The most disturbing thing for me about this whole thing is they have chosen to pin DRose in the middle of this, right, and basically make him make a decision.
Right.
And even, in one of the articles I was reading, they themselves, the church, says that DRose is their hometown hero.
Right.
Their local hero. They're born and raised. I mean, absolutely loves Chicago.
And how could you do them like that?
And they love him.
Right.
The very interesting thing about this is they want to depose DRose and ask him one question.
Just one.
One question. Quote, why he wants to steal a trademark of a small church of parishioners of modest means in Zion, Illinois.
That's
end quote.
That's
now,
rough.
why would you take your hometown hero,
Drag him through the mud,
and put him in this position where he has to choose between this local hometown church
Right.
or his company that he just signed one of the largest endorsement deals ever with a couple years ago for $250 million?
I mean, he's a paid rep. I mean, he
And
goes
he's their
around.
poster boy.
They use his brand, and they cross market each other.
So I really do have to question the motives of this church and why are they putting DRose in this position?
Yeah, it seems kind of ludicrous to me. I mean,
and for a guy like him, he's one of the nice guys in the NBA. His famous press conference when after he tore his ACL and he addressed the media and he broke down in tears because he was so overwhelmed with the support that he got from the city.
Yep.
He couldn't believe that growing up the way he grew up, now he was getting $90 million from the Bulls.
For sure.
mean, this guy's a true
he's
humble kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's the Chris Paul kind of guy. He's a John Wall kind of guy. He's a team guy. He loves his city, and that's rare. That's a rare thing in the NBA. To be humble and make that kind of money is something that's really great, and there's not a lot of guys like that.
And to put him in this position,
it's a rough position to put him in. But I personally, from a legal perspective, kind of think it's shameful that they're bringing the case at all. I mean, if it were me, I mean, if I were the judge in the case, I'm asking the attorney, what case are you bringing in front of me? I mean, these are two totally different things. You have an ethical obligation to know that the case that you're bringing either has merit or it has no merit. Now, you may not know that you're going to win or lose, but if you know that you just off the bat have no case, I mean, the guy could lose his license for bringing the case.
I mean, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office rejected a request by Adidas to throw out the case. Aside from that, we don't really have any more information on the status of the case, but we know at least didn't get tossed out initially.
Well, we'll definitely keep up with it as more evidence comes out.
Once again, you are listening to the Spo-Ad Cast, the official podcast of St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program. I'm your host, Trevor Graham, alongside Jason Fowler. We'll be right back.
Want to get a job in sports?
Yeah.
Listen to Spo-Ad Cast. This is Phil DeMontmollin with your St. Thomas University Sports Administration Alumni Update. Julie Orlowski, Masters of Science alum from 1995, is now the head women's soccer coach at Thomas University. Orlowski joins Thomas after 12 seasons at Stetson. Orlowski joins men's soccer coach and associate athletic director Ricky Zambrano at the school. Zambrano earned his BA in sports administration from STU in 1996 and later his MS in 2000. Thomas University is located in Thomasville, Georgia, and is a member of the Sun Conference, the same conference that the St. Thomas University Bobcats belong to. The Nighthawks will play the St. Thomas Bobcats on Friday, August 30th in a neutral site matchup in Claremont, Florida. St. Thomas women's soccer is coached by Michelle Smith, another St. Thomas University Sports Administration alum. So circle your calendar for the STU Spo-Ad versus Spo-Ad matchup later in August. Sean Todd, a 1996 alum with a Master's of Science from St. Thomas, was recently named the new Director of Football Operations at Florida International University. Sean joins a half dozen other STU Spo-Ad alums at FIU. They include Drew Augusti, Assistant AD of Event Management, Alex Kelly, Assistant AD of Corporate and Group Sales, Mark Green, Assistant Director for Eligibility, Frank Dama, Assistant Baseball Coach, Tommy Kanganis, Baseball and Softball Operations, and Ricardo Ramirez, Coordinator of Game Management and Game Operations. Congratulations to all the St. Thomas University Sports Administration alumni who continue to make waves in the sports industry. And that's your STU Spo-Ad Alumni Update. Until next time, I'm Phil DeMontmollin. This is Spo-Ad Cast. Spo-Ad Cast is the official podcast of the St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program.
We are your inside look into the sports industry.
Welcome back to the Spo-Ad Cast, the official podcast of St. Thomas University Sports Administration. I'm your host, Trevor Graham.
And I'm Jason Fowler.
And we are back with
next topic.
The most exciting topic for me. I've been waiting all morning to talk about this.
It's the best one, I feel.
Back to our man JayZ and Rock Nation.
Back again. Are you not entertained, Trevor? Are you not entertained?
Oh, I'm entertained. And his new CD, Magna Carta Holy Grail, kept me entertained for
You've listened to the album?
Hours this weekend.
Yeah. Well, I guess with all the free time you have, it's not hard to listen to all that music. So
yeah, life is good now.
I'll listen to it in a few weeks when I can breathe.
Oh, so JayZ and Rock Nation are back at it, signing more athletes.
Yeah.
Slowly taking over the agency world.
I told you, dude. He's going to take over the world.
Well, I think that's his plan. So the latest controversy is actually
from the album.
Yep.
Which I haven't listened to. Yeah, I just have gotten little clips of news from different news sources. So it's really interesting. JayZ kind of went out on a limb, so to speak, and called out Scott Boras, who was Robinson Cano's agent, and said basically, "You're over, baby," and said, "Robinson Cano, you're coming with me,"
which is true.
That is true. It did happen. Robinson Cano did leave his agent and sign with Rock Nation. Me personally, I have problems with it though. I don't like.
We'll get into that.
Man,
but let me start off by asking first of all, because we debated about this extensively. Does JayZ have a place in the agency world? Does he belong here?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's a leading question. I think. I think that's a complicated question. Can he rep players from a marketing perspective? Yes, I think that's true. Can he represent players in a contract perspective? I don't know. I don't believe so. Me personally, these people who are agents, they have to go to either law school or graduate school. A lot of these people take legal classes in grad school. I know our program here at St. Thomas, you're required to take sports law.
Right.
So you have a base understanding of these issues, what contracts look like, what clauses mean, and from a legal perspective, you get an even more in-depth understanding of what these contracts mean and how to operate the contracts in certain ways and to get the best deal for your client. And JayZ doesn't know that. He's not trained in that. He doesn't have a degree, a higher degree, nor does he have a professional one.
Right. I think it's important to mention that he was granted exceptions from a few of the leagues to be able to do this because he doesn't have the educational requirements that are necessary that the leagues require to do this. But they gave him exceptions based on his extensive contract history, his negotiation history.
They gave him street smart credibility, basically, in my opinion. I mean, there's a reason that they have these requirements in the leagues. People have been screwed over by agents that did not do their jobs, who had these higher degrees. They had the knowledge to formulate the deals, yet they still did not get the deals right. I mean, that's the amazing thing for me. Like, just because we have attorneys and we have these people that have higher degrees, they still make mistakes. These people who are well-trained, well-focused,
professionals,
they still make mistakes, and that happens. But they also have accountability for those mistakes, especially if they're attorneys. But JayZ doesn't have that. He doesn't bring that to the table. He got exceptions because, he's signed contracts in the past. He's built a business. To me, that's. I don't like it. I think it's bad for that business. I don't dislike JayZ. I think he brings a lot to marketing. He really could carve out his own little niche in the marketing aspect and run a business that would be more successful than any marketing division probably in the country. But when it comes to contract negotiations, I feel like just because he's signed contracts and he's been a part of those deals doesn't make him an expert. And that's what these leagues are saying. They're saying you are an expert in these positions. They've given him exceptions.
By giving him the authority.
By giving him the authority to do it himself.
You're an expert.
That's basically what it is. And he's not. I mean, he really isn't in that respect. And, I mean, no disrespect to him, but he really is not an expert.
But you know that he is surrounded. He's got a team. And you know that he's surrounded himself with experts.
Yes.
Do you have a problem with that?
No. I don't have an issue with JayZ running the business from a respect of, okay, I have a guy in the NFL who has the information necessary to do the job. I have a guy in the NBA. I have a guy in the MLB or a lady in the NBA or whatever, If you have guys under you, that's fine. But there's also clauses in those, player, association agreements that say that you can't do that. Like, I know he got in trouble early on when he was talking to Robinson Cano because you're not allowed to talk about contracts if you can't even be in the same room with a potential client if you're not certified. So when he sat in the room and his MLB certified person was there talking about contracts, that's a violation of those agreements. So there's bigger issues than just whether, okay, can JayZ have people do the job for him? Because if he's ever in the room without the certification, granted now he has them, but without those certifications, there's violations there. So JayZ can't break all the rules, like, and expect to get out of jail free card just because of who he is.
Well, here's my thing.
It's not fair to business.
You and I have fortunately and unfortunately discovered the world of the agency and what really goes on. I mean,
it's a rough business.
You and I, when we first met in law school, we both had the same future plans, and we worked with it. We developed it. We went so far as creating a name, a logo. I mean, we were on the path for business cards and business plans.
Absolutely.
And we both wanted to be agents. Then, I mean, for me personally, I can't speak for you. I found out what the agency world was like, and it's a shady, grimy business. Not to say that sports agents are shady and grimy, but just the business, the nature.
I think cutthroat is probably a better description.
Cutthroat, yes.
I mean,
and it's often those who stoop the lowest are rewarded the most.
That can be true.
To me, and we've said it's the Wild Wild West for the sports agency world. So I see no wrong in what JayZ is doing. If JayZ wants to come out and tell the other, the mega agents, the Borises, all those guys, hey, you're done. I'm coming for you.
Right.
Now it's my turn. Based on the agency world, I don't see anything wrong with it.
It's a bit of sandbagging. I mean, it's one of those things in business that you like to avoid. A good business person likes to, punch people in the mouth with an iron fist, but disguise it with with a velvet glove. And JayZ just ripped the glove off and hit him 5 times in the face. I mean, his mindset is more rap game, taking down business, taking down rappers, and that's the same. And unfortunately for JayZ, that's not how business works. I mean, he's built a very successful empire under the premise of the rap game. And the rap game, that's allowed. That's allowable to do, But you don't see Wall Street execs, you don't see corporate execs throwing blows with each other. Like, they don't do that. They don't use the media to build up hype around their businesses. They don't do that. They know the bottom dollar, they sell their products, and they do the best they can. They don't have to sandbag other people. And, I mean, JayZ's comments, I mean, I have to read it because to me it's unbelievable. He was on The Breakfast Club in New York City's Power 105 radio station up in New York. And I got to read this clip. He said, in reference to the agents who have been critical of him coming into the market, he said, and I quote, "Those guys have been sitting around just doing the typical things, knock on the same doors. They go to Nike, they go do the contract, and then they sit back. They don't do anything else. They just been sitting around for 20 to 30 years not doing anything." He continues, "So me coming, that's a problem for them because now they have to go to work. Now they have to wake up. Now they have to do things. So they don't want me around because now they know they have to do something for these athletes. The bigger goal is for all artists to get their just due, not to get half-ass agents or people who rob them or people who don't care about their finances. They're just taking whatever is going to give them a check."
You got a big problem with this.
I have a huge problem with that. I think it's disrespectful to the people. It's disrespectful to your profession. Like, it's like having, in my world, as an attorney, as a future to-be attorney, it's like me going out and just writing a press report and saying all attorneys are half-asses that just take over their clients and don't care about them. And there are people like that. I do not deny that there are attorneys out there that don't care about their clients, that are collecting a check, just as JayZ's comments are justified, that there are agents out there who do not care, who are just taking a check and taking advantage of their athletes, who do sit back and just do the contract and do nothing else. That is true. I don't disagree with that statement. But to come out and say all of these guys, all of these people, you're denouncing the profession that you're walking into, and you're painting a big target on your back, saying, please mess with me, please be critical of me coming into this new profession.
And I would agree that he did definitely paint a target on his back. I look at the comments differently. I think that JayZ knows that he has potential to expose these athletes like they've never been exposed before based on his connections all over the marketing world. And even his connection with the rap game. I mean, when you can stick Robinson Cano in one of your raps that makes, the radio, it's on top of billboards, whatever. As an athlete, I would love that.
See, that's the difference, though, between the regular guy coming in off the street and then the legal protections that agency is supposed to represent. Agency is a legal relationship. Your interests are solely for the client. Obviously, you do get paid, but you have an ethical responsibility to your client's finances. I mean, there was a story not 6 months ago about Drew Rosenhaus getting into a bit of an issue with money, with finances, with some of his clients who he advised to invest in a casino in Alabama that folded up. And the NFL almost considered kicking him out and taking his license away because he lost so much money for his clients. Now, that's Drew Rosenhaus. I mean, he's a kingpin in this business, just as Scott Boras is a kingpin in baseball. So these mistakes can happen, but it's interesting to me that JayZ just feels like agency is a joke, that there's not a relationship there. I understand that some people don't do their jobs, but it doesn't take away from the profession, And JayZ, his best attribute is his marketing ability. And I said that on our first show, if you reference that he has an incredible brand and he can market these athletes like no other
probably
person.
Better than anyone
else in the business. He could do probably the best job.
Right.
But what he's saying more than just marketing. He's saying these people don't do anything. They don't know anything. They're lazy, lazy and ignorant to marketing, totally different things. Like, you could be lazy. Lazy to me is defined as you know what you have to do, you know what you can do, yet you choose not to do it because you are lazy.
And I look at it as JayZ is, to me, he's borderline genius with what he's done throughout his entire career, from music to his clothing lines to record labels, to now the Nets, to now Rock Nation. I really think that what he meant by that, and again, this is my opinion, I think he meant it was kind of like warning shots. Like, I'm here to change the game. I'm going to innovate. I'm going to take marketing to a new level. I'm going to take agency to a new level. Now, you guys have to be afraid that I'm here because you have to step your game up. Otherwise, I will take all your clients.
I think JayZ, he could do it in a classier way. I think business is like that iron fist velvet glove. You have to do things in a way that people do not see that you are literally punching them in the face.
Like Boras. When he shot back with his reply.
They made fun of, JayZ made fun of him in this song and said, like, oh, I took away, you're
done, baby.
You're done,
Robinson
baby.
Cano, you're coming with me.
Exactly. He said all that. And then, Boras struck back and said, somebody asked him, came up and said, oh, like, well, what do you think about the lyrics? And Boras said probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. He said, he loves jazz music and that he's a huge Bernie Williams fan. I mean, to come up with something like that when you are instantly seen on the street, and to say that right off the bat is the exact thing I'm talking about. This is what professional business people do. They do things in a way that can be funny, or taken in a less serious way and still get their point across. And JayZ's attitude is a rap mentality. It's almost the mentality that you have in a jail when people are like, oh, whoever goes into jail and beats up the biggest guy on the block is going to be the new boss. That's JayZ's mindset. And to me, that's not how business is done in this arena. I mean, there's obviously, it's a cutthroat business, and I understand that, but JayZ could have come in, not said any of these comments, not put the put the target on his back and just done the marketing for these clients, and then the clients would flock to him. They're going to flock to him anyway because of who he is, but he could have built his business without making enemies, you know. And if he, you know, I still think he could have gone on the radio and said, you know, I think that agents overall have been ignorant to certain pieces of marketing where they could utilize their clients in a better way, or there's other ways to say what he was trying to accomplish in a more professional way, and in a way that, like Boris had, in a way that could be fun and entertaining and respectable. But he just went out and sandbagged everybody. Well, it's, to me, it's rude. It's unprofessional.
I think you hit the nail on the head saying that he just, you know, he's going for the kingpins. He's taking that jail mentality. His autobiography, Decoded, is one of my favorite books. I can't tell you how many times I've read it. And in that book, he speaks on, you know, when he was signing his first deals, how even when he went in against these major, you know, these major record label owners, that they were going to play by his rules, and that he was going to do things JayZ way.
Right.
And I think he has kind of taken that into the sports agency world. I think it's important to remember that he's only been doing this for what, a month, 2? So he's very fresh, he's very new, and I think this is, besides the Nets venture that he took, I think this is his first real business venture where he's in
sports business,
a real,
probably,
a real, you know, a public spotlight. Sports is huge.
I mean, the entertainment world, he really had that as well. I mean, in his clothing stuff, he
But
had
as you
that
said, in the rap
but
game, all that stuff is fair game.
Right.
You can call out anybody.
Well, that's the nature of that business. You know, this is
respect that
this
has
is
to
a
be.
professional business. I mean,
Right.
it would be the equivalent of 2 attorneys going to the news. You know, 2 competing attorneys. So let's just use South Florida as an example. Alex Hanna gets on TV and says, you know, Ticket Clinic, you don't know what's going on. Like, you're a terrible business. You don't help your clients.
And I'm taking your clients.
And I'm taking them all. If he said that, his business would disappear. It would disappear overnight. It's just one of those things that you just don't do. Like it's
you
just,
said earlier,
you know, it just
JayZ
wouldn't work.
JayZ's got a lot of different hats to wear.
He does.
He's got to be more conscious of which hat he has on.
Exactly.
In his certain.
JayZ likes to wear the rapper hat in everything he does, and you just can't do that. I mean, there's a time and a place for all of those different things. You know, when he's in the boardroom, he's got to wear the suit and tie. You know,
Right.
He's got to put on the same suit as everyone else and walk in, present his information, and the clients will flock to him just because of who he is. He doesn't need to do this negative campaign and bash everybody in the business. It's just not necessary.
Well, how about the theory that any publicity is good publicity?
Oh, you know, he's certainly making news for himself, but like I said, he doesn't need to make news for himself. He is JayZ. He
Right.
is one of the best rappers and business people.
The best
of our century. I mean, he really is. He's an unbelievable business person, and it shocks me that somebody of his caliber and
Has
of
taken
his
these
business
approaches.
has done it this way. I mean, it's very similar to when you see the negative political campaigns on TV during elections. You're just like, really? You had to do it that way?
Right.
Like, you know, and not to say it doesn't work, because it does. It does work at times, but
It's a
you know,
shocking move for
it's
JayZ to take.
It's a move
this
he
route.
didn't need to do at all. He could have done it in a different way. That would have been more respectable, and it wouldn't have caused any issue. He wouldn't have this huge target on his back. Because I can tell you now, every agent in the business is teaming up against JayZ at this point.
Oh, he's put the target on his back.
Because now these
Without a doubt.
super agencies that exist, the CEAAs, I mean, obviously CAA is teamed up with him, but the, you know, Lagardères and these big sports business, you know, enterprises with agency, they're gunning for him at this point. They want to drive him out of the business, and this is more motivation. I mean, why do that to yourself, especially when you're a baby in the business, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's I think we'll be following JayZ and Roc Nation closely for a while. We're both very interested to see where this goes. And at this point, I really have no idea. His track record in the first 2 months, it's got to be just as good, if not better, than any other agents has ever had.
I mean,
to start,
it's probably the best run to start ever. But I mean, at the same time, you got to think of it this way: most agents don't get in the game from another business
starting
and coming
on the
in with that
platform that he's
success.
starting
Exactly.
on, right.
I mean, most agents do it like, you know, we were considering doing it. They come out of law school, they set up a small practice, they look for clients, they get one client, and then it kind of grows from there. Well, he is coming in with this entertainment, you know, super, you know, business. And he's just like, oh, well, I already have all this stuff for you. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's a model which will be interesting to see if other celebrities in the music game come into. Guys have big market presence. It'd be interesting to see if other people start thinking that they can do the same thing.
Well,
And it'll be interesting to see, given like how JayZ got exceptions, whether I'm not a huge fan, but if Justin Bieber had a very similar setup,
I was just going to tell you that I remember reading. It was during our 1L year when we were going through all our business planning that Bieber and his team had $150 million set away to start their own sports agency.
Right.
And I was just slightly devastated and slightly furious because there's no way. I mean,
how do you compete with that money?
The only reason you and I started this is because we were sitting talking around about the connections that we had at a young age and
we
kind
do.
of
I mean, we do
and,
have those connections, but
and
when
it was
you're
like,
competing
we should
with
do
millions,
this, but
right.
we can't compete with that. There's no way, and there's a lot of people that are in the same boat as we would have been in,
right?
And it's you can't compete with that.
It's tough to compete. I mean, it's you're better off trying to join one of those big organizations if you're looking to get a job in that respect than
to try to
starting it on
them.
your own, because these are the guys you're competing against. This is serious market share,
and
power.
in the wild west too. So
it's cutthroat. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So that's why we can't do it. We have those,
and we chose.
We have hearts. So it's a tough business to get into. So
well, this will certainly be something fun to follow. I think that's about it for us today.
Hope everybody enjoyed the show. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, our YouTube channel, and don't forget to check us out on our website as well. For myself, is Jason Fowler.
I'm Trevor Graham. This is the official podcast of St. Thomas Sports Administration Program. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Cheers.
This is Spo-Ad Cast. Spo-Ad Cast is the official podcast of the St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program.
We are your inside look into the sports industry.
Want to get a job in sports?
Listen to
Spo-Ad Cast.